Saturday night, First Energy Stadium. The Browns take the win. The scoreboard flashes 22-13. The crowd roars. Fans pour out of their seats like they've just witnessed the start of something special. A young quarterback igniting a fresh era. A team bouncing back from years of dysfunction. It felt like hope. But they had no idea. That moment, cheering, smiling, celebrating, wasn't the beginning of a turnaround. It was the beginning of a total meltdown. Because while the fans were celebrating a meaningless preseason victory, something darker was unfolding on the sidelines. Something that would shatter team chemistry, ignite legal chaos, and drag the Cleveland Browns into one of the most dramatic scandals the league has ever seen. A quarterback's career sabotaged. A head coach accused of outright betrayal. A single roster decision and if what's being claimed is true, it could change the way football works at the highest level, forever. Shedeur Sanders walked into First Energy Stadium on a mission. Fresh off a breakout performance, where he threw for 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and posted a perfect passer rating through 3 quarters. The narrative was shifting. The kid could ball, and everyone was watching. National spotlight, packed stadium, all eyes on Cleveland. Then, without warning, he was out. Not just benched, erased. The official word? An oblique strain. But insiders immediately smelled something off. There was no MRI, no sideline incident, no pain reported leading up to the game. Just the coaching staff saying Sanders couldn't go. Throwing lasers in warm-ups, laughing with teammates, and fully engaged. No hesitation, no sign of discomfort. This didn't look like injury management. It looked like a setup, and the timing raised eyebrows. Sanders had momentum. Fans were buzzing. Analysts beginning to take him seriously. He was supposed to be the guy that broke the Browns' quarterback curse. But instead of getting his moment, he gets pulled. Silently, suspiciously, before the cameras start rolling. According to several sources inside the organization, this wasn't a precaution, it was personal. A growing rift between Sanders and head coach Kevin Stefanski had reached the breaking point. From day one, Stefanski reportedly preferred a safe, system-style quarterback. Someone to run plays, not headlines. Sanders? He was anything but safe. Dynamic, young, marketable. The opposite of what Stefanski wanted. Throwing lasers in warm-ups, laughing with teammates, and fully engaged. No hesitation, no sign of discomfort. This didn't look like injury management. It looked like a setup. And the timing raised eyebrows. Sanders had momentum. Fans were buzzing. Analysts beginning to take him seriously. He was supposed to be the guy that broke the Browns' quarterback curse. But instead of getting his moment, he gets pulled. Silently, suspiciously, before the cameras start rolling. According to several sources inside the organization, this wasn't a precaution. It was personal. A growing rift between Sanders and head coach Kevin Stefanski had reached the breaking point. From day one, Stefanski reportedly preferred a safe, system-style quarterback, someone to run plays. So when Sanders began proving himself, when his on-field play demanded recognition, that rift turned into something more, hostile, even strategic. Some are calling it professional sabotage. Others say it was a thinly veiled power move, a coach trying to send a message. But what happened next made everything far worse. Because Sanders and his camp weren't just angry, they were ready. And behind the scenes, they were mobilizing for something the NFL had never seen before. What came next wasn't a press release. It wasn't a quiet player complaint or a behind-the-scenes conversation with the front office. It was a legal bombshell. Within hours of the game, Sanders' team made a move nobody expected. According to multiple reports, they began preparing to file a $35 million lawsuit. Not against the Browns, not against the NFL, but against head coach Kevin. That's right, Sanders planned to take on the man who benched him, not just on the field, but in court. The allegations were brutal: fraudulent injury designation, intentional defamation, manipulation of career opportunities, and the destruction of future earnings. His PR team reportedly began crafting statements. His lawyers, top-tier defamation and sports law specialists, were gathering evidence, documentation, and footage. Emails, text messages, coaching notes, even practice film. And the number? $35 million. That wasn't random. According to insiders, that figure was calculated, not just for lost playing time, but endorsement deals, market value, brand impact, and reputational damage. And here's the real shocker. Suddenly, the story wasn't just about one quarterback being benched. It became something far bigger, something the NFL wasn't ready for. Players around the league started watching. Coaches started sweating. Executives started whispering. Because if Shedeur Sanders could prove that a coach intentionally faked an injury designation to suppress his career, that changes everything. Coaches would now need to think twice before benching players. Every personnel decision could eventually be questioned. Every injury would need airtight, medical-grade proof. And Kevin Stefanski? He didn't just have a quarterback controversy anymore. He had a personal legal war looming, with his reputation, finances, and entire career on the line. The Browns had just secured a win. The locker room should have been buzzing. But upstairs, inside the executive wing of First Energy Stadium, the energy was anything but celebratory. As word of Sanders' planned lawsuit began spreading, one man was reportedly losing his mind: team owner Jimmy Haslam. According to multiple insiders, Haslam found out about the impending legal action during the team's post-game celebration. And his reaction? One source described it as a volcanic eruption. What followed was not a typical debrief. It was a war room assembled in panic. Haslam summoned Kevin Stefanski, general manager Andrew Berry, legal counsel, PR executives, everyone. The meeting reportedly went on till sunrise. Doors slammed, voices raised. Conference room walls couldn't contain the shouting. Accusations were flying in every direction. People were pointing fingers, ducking blame, even questioning each other's loyalty to the franchise. One executive allegedly shouted, "It was already destroyed the moment Kevin declared war on our quarterback." All eyes were now on Stefanski, not as a coach leading a winning team, but as a liability, dragging the entire franchise into chaos. And Stefanski? His power evaporated overnight. Multiple sources said players began distancing themselves immediately. Assistant coaches started documenting their interactions. Front office staffers began shielding themselves from accountability. The Browns' facility didn't feel like a football team anymore. It felt like a legal battlefield. Every meeting now had a paper trail. Every hallway conversation could be recorded. Every move felt like evidence for an upcoming trial. The paranoia was real, and it was spreading fast. Stefanski, once a respected figure inside the building, had become radioactive. No one wanted to be tied to him. And with a $35 million lawsuit pending, he was no longer just a coach. He was the center of a legal crisis that threatened to blow up the Browns from the inside out. Outside the facility, the headlines exploded. Inside it, trust evaporated. The Browns may have escaped with a win on the field, but their locker room was now a minefield. Players weren't just confused. They were tense, divided, and completely unsure who was telling the truth. Veterans reportedly stayed silent, caught between loyalty and self-preservation. Offensive players close to Sanders began moving cautiously, avoiding interviews. Defensive players kept their distance, trying not to choose sides. And the special teams? Total ghost mode. No one wanted to be dragged into what was quickly spiraling into a legal and public relations nightmare. But while the team said nothing, the fans said everything. Local sports radio abandoned game analysis for full-blown trial talk. Analysts called it sabotage. Fans called it treason. Even former players started speaking out, condemning the decision to sideline Sanders and questioning whether coaching politics had gone too far. And the silence from the Browns only made things worse. Stefanski gave no meaningful explanation. The team issued no clarifying statement. The only official comment? A vague reference to a precautionary decision. That didn't fly with a fan base that had waited years, decades, for a franchise quarterback. Sanders was their glimmer of hope, and they watched him get pulled before even getting a chance. Worse, they were now seeing the team unravel in real time while management scrambled for damage control. Inside the building, the Browns had gone from playoff hopefuls to a franchise under siege. The media didn't care about the scoreboard anymore. Late-night shows were cracking jokes. Podcasts were dissecting conspiracy theories. National reporters were digging through every frame of game day footage, looking for answers no one inside the organization was giving. And in the middle of it all, Shedeur said nothing. But that silence, it was beginning to speak louder than any press conference ever could. While the Browns scrambled to contain the fire, Shedeur Sanders was already loading the flamethrower. He didn't show up for a press conference. He didn't rant on social media. He didn't have to, because behind the scenes, his team was building a case designed to do exactly what Stefanski had allegedly tried to prevent. Make Shedeur Sanders. They were building a weapon. Defamation experts, sports law veterans, digital forensics analysts, crisis management strategists. Every angle was covered, and their target? Kevin Stefanski. Not just professionally, but personally. Reports claim the legal case includes practice footage, player evaluations, internal emails, text messages, and timeline breakdowns meant to prove a pattern of bias, manipulation, and deceit. Footage shows Sanders fully participating in practice the day before the game. Walkthroughs? No discomfort. Pre-game warm-ups? Perfect execution. Not a hint of injury. Every frame of video contradicted the public narrative. Every message retrieved from inside the facility pointed to something calculated, not cautious. Some insiders say it wasn't the first time, either. Sources close to Sanders allege this was just the culmination of months of subtle sabotage. Snide comments during film sessions, unexplained benchings after good performances, even cold stares during meetings. But this time, it wasn't just a slight, it was career-altering. And Sanders' team isn't just looking for a payout, they're looking for accountability. Because once those private communications become public record, the Browns won't just be dealing with quarterback controversy, they'll be dealing with organizational exposure. League officials, team owners, and rival executives are watching with growing interest and concern. If Sanders' lawsuit proves that a head coach used a fake injury to politically eliminate a player from the lineup, that means every coaching decision in the league becomes subject to legal review. And Kevin Stefanski, he may have just opened Pandora's playbook. This wasn't staying in Cleveland anymore. As news of Shedeur Sanders' lawsuit spread, it wasn't just reporters and angry fans tuning in, it was coaches, GMs, and team owners across the entire NFL. And the reaction? Legal experts are already calling it a potential watershed moment, not just for the Browns, but for the league. One defensive coordinator privately admitted, "We might need liability insurance just to bench a guy now." An offensive assistant reportedly joked, "Soon we'll need a lawyer standing behind us with the depth chart." It might have sounded funny, but they weren't laughing. Training staffs are being told to document everything, every twinge, every stretch, every piece of tape. PR teams are updating their playbooks to handle legal fallout. Front offices are reviewing contracts, restructuring player communication protocols. It's no longer just about game prep. It's now about legal protection. And agents, they're licking their lips. Because now every injury claim, every coach's decision, every player grievance carries leverage. Negotiations have new fuel. Players aren't just fighting for snaps, they're fighting with legal ammo behind them. The balance of power is shifting, quietly but fast. All because one player decided he wasn't just going to take the benching. He was going to bring the entire system to court. While the rest of the league watched nervously from a distance, Cleveland was already on fire. The Browns weren't just dealing with a PR disaster anymore. They were dealing with full organizational fracture. Inside the locker room, things had turned silent. Not because tensions faded, but because no one knew who they could trust. Conversations became whispers. Eye contact disappeared. The vibe? Paranoia wrapped in fake professionalism. Behind the scenes, it was even uglier. Front office staffers were quietly reviewing internal emails, trying to remove themselves from the digital trail. Department heads were documenting every decision. Legal asked for electronic communication logs. HR began monitoring staff behavior. What had once been a football team began looking more like a crime scene under investigation. And the fractures weren't just among execs. The players were now fully split. Sources say offensive players, especially those close to Sanders, completely lost faith in Stefanski. Many felt like they were just one bad game away from being erased too. Defensive players were staying out of it, neutral but clearly uncomfortable. And the special teams unit? Total ghost town. Confused, disconnected, tense. Veterans quietly started checking out. Rookies and draft picks wondered if this was what NFL life was supposed to look like. Outside the building, Cleveland's image took a beating. Free agents who once showed interest reportedly told their agents, "Anywhere but Cleveland." Draft prospects now eyed other teams more aggressively, and executives around the league were wondering, how much longer can Haslam hold on? This isn't Stefanski versus Sanders anymore. It's not legal drama versus football strategy. It's something deeper, a complete loss of identity, a system that's been exposed and undone in real time. And the franchise? Totally paralyzed. Fire your coach? You validate the lawsuit. Keep him? You destroy the locker room. Side with the quarterback? Risk undermining future coaching hires. Side with the coach? Lose the face of your franchise. There is no right move, only fallout. In a story this explosive, you'd expect the central figure, Shedeur Sanders, to say something. A press conference, a tweet, even a cryptic Instagram story. But instead, nothing. Publicly, Shedeur has remained completely silent. No statements, no interviews, no fiery quotes. Just calm, calculated restraint. But while his mouth stayed shut, his message has been getting louder. Because Shedeur may not be speaking with words, but he's speaking strategically, and he's doing it everywhere. Fans noticed almost immediately. A TikTok surfaced showing Sanders in the gym, moving like he was ready for a combine. Zero limitations. Comments flooded in. Oblique injury? Where? His Instagram? Carefully curated. Clips of focused training, motivational captions, zero negativity. On Twitter, his likes tell the real story. Supportive tweets from fans, calling out the benching, tagging #JusticeForShedeur, sharing side-by-side footage of warm-ups and the allegedly fake injury claims. Every move looks spontaneous, but insiders suggest otherwise. This isn't damage control, it's targeted warfare. Sources say Sanders' PR team is using social media to dismantle the Browns' official narrative while preserving his image as calm, collected, and unjustly wronged. No outbursts, no ego, just facts, fitness, and passive resistance that's crushing the franchise in real time. It's media savvy on another level, the kind you don't learn in football. It's chess, not checkers. And Stefanski? He's still trying to play by old-school rules. Locker room control, spin tactics, premature explanations. Meanwhile, Shedeur is setting digital traps, shaping public opinion, and letting the internet do what the NFL won't: hold people accountable. And exactly as planned, it's working. The fan base is now more connected to Sanders than ever. Younger followers see him as a symbol, the athlete who didn't fold quietly. The lawsuits and legal threats may happen behind closed doors. But the real battle for reputation, that's happening in plain sight. And Stefanski, he's already losing, not just in court, but in the court of public opinion. This isn't just a quarterback versus coach. It's not just Cleveland versus controversy. This has become something much bigger, a direct shot at the power structure of the NFL itself. If Sanders' lawsuit succeeds, even partially, it sets a precedent that could reshape the sport. Because for the first time in league history, a player is attempting to hold a head coach personally liable for what was once considered football decisions. No longer would a benching be just about game flow. It could be the start of litigation. No longer could a coach give a vague injury precaution without risking legal exposure. From now on, every inactive designation better come with documentation, a timestamp, and possibly a lawyer on standby. The implications? Massive. Owners would demand new levels of transparency. Coaches would rethink every substitution. Injury reports would become court-safe documents. Players could leverage benchings into lawsuits. And in the middle of it all, trust, the fragile connection between athlete and coach, would fracture under the weight of fear. Coaches already feel it. One assistant reportedly asked his GM, "Can I get fired for choosing the wrong starter? Are sued?" The answer? No one knows. Because the NFL's legal rulebook was never built for this. Cleveland, meanwhile, is dealing with its own fallout. Stefanski's career lies on the edge of destruction. Sanders' future is entangled in legal warfare. Jimmy Haslam's ownership is under scrutiny from league officials. Some even whisper that a forced sale isn't off the table. The Browns were supposed to be playoff-bound. Now, they're a case study in how fast a franchise can implode from the inside. And it all started, not with an interception, not with an injury, but with a decision, a single suspicious, silent benching, and one quarterback who decided he wasn't going to take it lying down.